Hello, everyone. Oh man, it has been a long week. It really has been. Between work and friends and plans, and we're in peak Chicago spring weather right now, where you don't know if you need to wear your super thick, warm coat because it's blizzarding outside. Should you pack an umbrella? Maybe. Or do you need to wear a tank top and shorts and bring extra sunblock because it's 80 degrees outside in 1 week, sometimes in one day. So it has been a week. But, I do have to say St. Patrick's Day week is always a fun time to be in Chicago. If the listeners out there have ever been to the city of Chicago during St. Patrick's Day, they dye the river green. And everybody from all the suburbs, basically, let's just be honest, majority of the people that head down into the city to watch the river be dyed green are probably suburbanites. And it's a mob. It's a party. People start pre-gaming at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and then they just go out to the bars and they drink all day until basically close. And it got me thinking, like, man, I'm not that old, but the concept of like getting up, getting ready, like putting on makeup, doing my hair, getting dressed, and then going to a pregame at like 8 o'clock in the morning for brunch, and then go maybe see the river get dyed green, hang out with a bunch of people, maybe then go to a bar and then bar hop until some people stay out till 2 o'clock in the morning. Whoever is built for that, they're built different. Because I can't even fathom that. And the new thing that I learned, God, I'm going to sound like an ancient millennial here, is the city of Chicago, like the police department, was confiscating a lot of folks, because clearly downtown Chicago is not Vegas. You can't just have an open container of beer or liquor or anything when you're walking around. But apparently there's this new thing called a Borg. And it's basically a gallon jug that you put booze in. And apparently they were confiscating tons of them during the St. Patrick's Day celebrations, which I find hilarious. Man, not even a flask, just full on like water pitcher of booze. And it got me really thinking about like traditions and all of that fun stuff. And I don't even remember like what during like when I was 21 going to the St. Patrick's Day celebrations, like what was the thing we did? Let's just say that, it was just a wild time. But it was a horrible day. Like it was cold and rainy, but people came out, and they came out in droves, and they saw the river turn green. And fun fact, the dye that they used for the river to turn green is actually like neon yellow. So once it permeates, there's clearly some chemical reaction that makes it like, green, like St. Patrick's Day green. But it is wild. They had people on jet skis doing flips. They had, fake shark fins. They had people just on the river walk. And even though we've had 19 different seasons in one span of a week, I feel like the St. Patrick's Day river turning green is like the true sign that there will be green leaves, spring's coming, and we'll have the opportunity to defrost a little bit and start really enjoying one of the prime reasons why we decide to live in Chicago, which is the summer, right? Summertime Chicago, honestly, is incredible. So, yeah. So it's been a crazy week. It's just me today. So we got some things to get into. We'll definitely talk a little bit about news and what's been happening around the IndyCar neck of the woods. We'll definitely talk about Arlington. I got a lot to say. And, we finally get a breather. While I'm sad that there's no IndyCar race this weekend, I'm assuming the drivers, the teams, the loved ones and family members that these folks get to see are happy they get a week off, even though some of them are racing Sebring. Another conversation for another day. I wish there was another race. I do. It was so nice to have 3 IndyCar races in the span of 3 weeks. So let's get into it and really take a deep dive into Arlington. News. Let's go into this. There's been not a lot of news happening outside of like the news around Arlington and, you know, the race and all that jazz. But we did have some little nuggets of news that dropped over the last couple of days. There's been a lot of conversation around what's next when it comes to street races in IndyCar. And Denver has been definitely on the docket for years now. I know that there has been some rumors that started primarily in 2024 around, can Denver host a very similar race to like the Miami GP around the Broncos Stadium and do a street circuit in Denver? It would be nice because then you would get another West Coast race that's not in California. So you'll have, you know, another state, another opportunity. You know, there's a lot of space to do a race like a street race in Denver. So apparently that is what people are looking at. Promoters are looking to get almost $500,000 in sponsorship with possibility of it with the city. It looks like it will be around Empower Field at Mile High, which could be on the 2027 schedule. I think it would be a great opportunity for IndyCar to continue kind of having more street races. Clearly, with how the Dallas Cowboys and the Texas Rangers welcomed IndyCar, I think other stadiums, especially during off season, right? Like, especially during, you know, the summer months when there is no football, like, what do you do with an empty stadium if there's not a concert there? Let's have a race. And so it's less of an investment than having an F1 race, to say the least. But it looks like promoters are looking for financing and conversations are ongoing with IndyCar. And I think the expected race distance for Denver will be around 1.8 miles, which is the perfect size. And I would love it. I would go. My best friend lives in Denver. I'd be there. Come on. I think that this is going to be a thing. I think that there's going to be this rotating street course, kind of similar in the way NASCAR did it with the Chicago street race, where it might be on the calendar for a couple of years and then move on someplace else. And it's a good testing ground to see if the fan base will show up, right? And street racing, people will come, right? Even if you're just a passerby, right? Like in Detroit, they have a free grandstand where folks that are just walking around downtown Detroit can sit and watch the Detroit Grand Prix. It gives us more exposure into different markets. And I think that it's a great idea. I know that there's been conversations about where else I have heard. Don't know how it's going to happen with the move of the Kansas City Chiefs, but there has been conversation about having a race around, you know, Arrowhead. And well, I know it's not called that, but where the Kansas City Chiefs play, with them having the new stadium being built, it gives them the opportunity to do something there in the next couple of years. There have been conversations around maybe a, you know, Northeast race, and doing a street race somewhere in the Northeast. Even the Chicago Bears Stadium and Soldier Field have been mentioned. Yeah, we should do that. I'm impartial, but I think we should do it. I think there should be a Lap It Like It's Hot grandstand just for our Chicago folks. No, I'm kidding. But I am happy that IndyCar is starting to realize that, yes, having standalone, you know, road and ovals on the calendar, new markets, bring new fans, bring new eyeballs, and go where the people are, right? Phoenix was a great turnout with a doubleheader with NASCAR. Let's keep this momentum going and try out different markets. But do not forget about those international races. I still think that IndyCar could be successful internationally, but I understand this concept of let's try to make sure that we have our home base covered, right? Let's make sure that the markets in the United States that we want to, penetrate in and have a new fan base or a continuing growing fan base, let's nurture those relationships and have races, have moments in time for them. And then let's have the big splashes. Let's have Pato have his Mexico home race. Let's look at maybe opportunities to race in Latin America or even in Europe. God, before Scott Dixon retires, let's do a race in New Zealand, for fuck's sake, right? We have enough drivers on the grid, right? So I still want to put pressure on, Mark Miles and, the IndyCar executive team to say, hey, yes, I understand where you're going to nurture the United States audience, but let's make this grow a little bit bigger slowly internationally. Let's not forget about the international presence because there are international fans. And I do think that if we had an international race, fans would go. So Denver, love it. Give me a street race in Denver. I will be there. But when you think about it, it was nice to have Phoenix. It was nice to have Phoenix and have an oval before the Indy 500, right? It was nice to have that opportunity to have that fun oval racing experience. And street racing gives that same kind of vibe, right? And it's easier to work with, let's say, an NFL team. Because if you can make a parking lot look that sick like they did at Arlington, shit, world's your oyster. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But speaking about the Indy 500, we are officially midway through March. So we're going to start seeing more and more of the confirmations of who will be bidding their Indy 500 ticket. No shocker to true IndyCar fans. Helio Castroneves is continuing the drive for 5. And I think he should. I think he should race as long as his body, soul, and mind want to race. And if that man gets that 5th Indy 500 win, shit, that'd be incredible. That would be life-changing, right? So Helio is going to continue with his partnership with Meyer Shank Racing. For those of you who do not know, Helio does have, partnership stake in MSR. So having that relationship and having that third entry and having the Chip Ganassi partnership, I see you, Helio. I see you. Another confirmation for the Indy 500, we have Takuma Sato coming back with RLL, which, as we know from last year, he was on the front row. Takuma is incredible, and I cannot wait to continue seeing him racing in that 4th RLL entry. But it leaves us with a question mark, right? The Indy 500, 33 qualify. We have had bump days for a few years now, right? We have had more than 33 entries, especially last year with Prema, we had a bump day. And it's, these last couple of years, it's been 34 entries, right? And so one person doesn't make it. And, 1 year Graham didn't make it. Was it Rena's knocking out Jacob Abel last year and knocking out his teammate, right? While it sucks, it's an unbelievable way of watching qualifying, right? But right now, the current grid is set at 31. 31 out of 33 entries. I do not even know when the last time the Indy 500 did not have 33 entries, right? Bump day, whatever, but 33 confirmed entries. So if we do the math, okay, Andretti always runs a 4th car. For the longest time, I almost said Michael. Nope, Marco Andretti had kind of sponsored and really kind of had purchasing power over that 4th Andretti seat. So no other driver can take it. And honestly, if you're Marco Andretti, no one's going to be taking your 4th Andretti Indy 500 seat. But now that Marco has decided to take a step away from the 500, with last year being his last race, that seat is now open. Apparently, Andretti is done talking to drivers. So they have talked to whoever they want to talk to. The number one person that everyone has been speculating is that Colton Herta will be returning back to IndyCar, taking that 4th Andretti seat for the 500. This is why in Formula 2, there's no races in May. It gives, Colton the opportunity of, helping out Cadillac from a development driver perspective, but still have the opportunity to go to practice, go to qualifying, and race the 500 without any F2 conflicts, especially since F2 is one of his primary focuses in Europe this year. I believe the reason why Andretti hasn't announced it, if it is Colton, is because with all of the issues and all of the heartbreak and all of the horribleness, that's all I will say, that's happening in the Middle East right now, with Formula One being canceled in Saudi Arabia as well as in Bahrain. The question mark still stands with all Middle East races of what's going to happen in the next couple of months. The F2 races have also been canceled. So the question is, are they going to reschedule a different track? Are they going to move an F2 race, maybe an F1 race additionally in, maybe F2 will race in Montreal to maintain a similar sized schedule? There is a lot of question marks. So I believe that because of the fluidity of the conflict in the Middle East, Andretti is waiting to the last possible second before the open test at the end of April to make that decision with Colton, because we always want to make sure, like, if there's an F2 race, Colton's going to be there, right? So while I would love Colton to come back to the Indy 500, Herda Nation will rejoice. I already hear some people kicking their feet, giggling if the announcement comes out. Dana, I'm calling you out specifically. I understand if there is a rescheduling or a conflict that makes him not available and another driver will take it, right? Andretti's got a Rolodex of drivers that will take that fourth seat. So perfect. Let's say Colton's doing it. All the stars have aligned. We're at 32 entries. So we're still not even at the 33rd entry. And it comes down to the one, the only, drum roll, please, Prema. Prema is still out there hustling with their tin can going, hey, can someone buy us, please? We'd like to stay in IndyCar. No ink has dried. No contracts allegedly have been signed. They own 2 Chevy engines. They still do. For fuck's sake, Callum Ilott still remains under contract with Prema. I'm assuming he's not getting paid, or if he is getting paid, it's literally peanuts. Which means that they've released Robert Schwartzman, or Schwartzy has decided to walk away, which we don't know. We don't know. Or he might come back. But they are so aloof, and they have, once again, Long Beach is next month. That was their goal, to come back with 2 cars. If that's the case, then we end with 34 cars. If they come back with, let's say they get financing, they get all their shit together, they come under a new name, or they keep the same name. Who knows? It's IndyCar. It could be Prema XXXY. You have 2 engine leases. Let's say Callum takes one, Schwartzy takes the other. Okay. We're at 32, 33, 34. Great. Perfect. Bump day. Imagine being Prema, just getting financing because you're a sinking ship monetarily and you get bumped. You know what I mean? Like, there is so much risk with all of this. But if Prema decides to come with 1 car, there's still 1 singular engine lease available. If Prema decides to not come in, there's 2 Chevy engines that are waiting. Okay. Penske, in my opinion, Penske Entertainment will ensure that there are 33 cars on the grid. And how do they do that? They have a partnership with AJ Foyt. Foyt used to run 3 cars. They have if Penske can support funding, the rest of it, the Chevy engine can go to Foyt and we'll have 33 cars. Perfect. Catherine Legg, who has sponsorship, who has, a backing, has said she wants to do the 500. We have Devlin DeFrancesco just aimlessly waiting, in the wings for a seat. We have Jacob Abel, right? With the partnership that they have with Indy Next, Abel Motorsports, they can come back, right? So there's a lot of still uncertainty, even a month and a half away from not even the open test. So let's keep our fingers, toes, Etsy witches on speed dial to have Colton be at the 500 for the 4th Andretti seat. And let's see what happens with Prema. Because if Prema comes in, automatic 2 cars, we have bump day. If they don't come in, then we got to start thinking, will Penske give a Chevy engine to Foyt or Juncos? Coyne can run a 3rd car, but they're a Honda engine, so that will be more difficult. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see. And then finally, This kind of launched out of nowhere, in my opinion. IndyCar launched an all-in series, which is like a 15-minute documentary behind the scenes week after week after a race weekend, which I'm assuming they'll probably do. They just had St. Pete go out today. They'll probably have Phoenix and Arlington with one because they were just so close to one another. Or they'll stagger it so that they can wait until Barber. I was skeptical. It was nice that it was on the YouTube channel. It wasn't behind a paywall. They didn't use crazy AI slop to promote it. It was good. I liked it. It was 15 minutes. I wanted an hour, but you can't always get what you want, Monica, right? But it was accessible. It gives fans something to watch in between the race weekends, which is awesome. But you know what I really loved about it? It gave more of a personal touch to the drivers, which I think 100 Days of Indy tried, right? We learned about Joseph Newgarden's 15 pack, his perfect perfect Disney princess, Captain America life. We learned about Pato and his crazy, reckless, fun, boy band personality. But this feels different. This feels more raw, more real. And it followed Alex Palou because clearly Alex Palou won the St. Pete Grand Prix. And I've mentioned this in previous episodes. When Alex Palou's 2026 commercial came out, I was disappointed. It really wasn't, it didn't give me who Alex Palou was. And Alex Palou over the last couple of years has been very curated with his external content. He was still himself, don't get me wrong, but it felt like he was Ferrari media trained, right? It felt like he was answering the right questions, saying the right things, but there was so much going on with his trial with McLaren and everything. I think he kept more of a stoic facade, right? This really gave me a glimpse into who Alex Palou is. He is ruthless on track, but in a precise and patient way. He is kind. The 10 team brings fun and pokes fun and has laughs. And he was swearing. Like, I know it might sound silly, but him just being like, oh yeah, we brought this shit to the next level. It was like, oh my gosh, you're human. You're not in front of a microphone in front of a judge, right? It really also showcased like where he came from. I knew that he came through the European ladder. I've always questioned, he went to Arrow McLaren or wanted to go to Arrow McLaren for the dream of joining F1. But I didn't realize how hard it was for him, how financially strapped he was, and how him and his girlfriend or partner at the time, now wife, had to struggle to pay rent and make it through. And that he's fortunate, that he's lucky to have the opportunity to be in IndyCar, which I'm assuming if he wanted to move to F1, there would be teams that would scoop him up in a heartbeat, which he could, but he still stays here. And staying is one thing, dominating the series is another. And it really made me want to watch more. I was like, damn, if they're going to do 18 of these, or how many races? Yep, 18. They better all be this way. Like, I cannot wait for Joseph's next weekend. I cannot wait for Kyle Kirkwood's. This is what IndyCar needed. Am I a little annoyed that it's on the IndyCar on Fox YouTube channel and it's not collaborated on the IndyCar YouTube channel? Yes. That should be an easy place for both places for it to sit. Because the first thing I did when I searched, I was like, oh my God, I went to the IndyCar YouTube channel. It wasn't there. I had to go to the IndyCar on Fox YouTube channel, which from like a user perspective, that can get confusing. Outside of that, it was great. YouTube, perfect. Random F1 people that want to know more about IndyCar, want to know why people are talking such great things about it, they can find it. Perfect. Whoever thought of that, thank you. We'll continue giving feedback around each of the episodes every time it comes out. But the first one, short, sweet, but deep. And I cannot wait to see more. Thank you, whoever thought of that. But all right, let's get into Arlington. How about them Cowboys? That's all I gotta say. How about them Cowboys? They may not ever get into the playoffs, or they may not ever make it to the Super Bowl in the next 10 years. Sorry for any Cowboys fans listening. But Jerry fucking Jones knows how to throw a fucking party. Add a race to it. Incredible. I do not like the Dallas Cowboys organization. Period. I have issues with it. I will not digress. I will start my own NFL podcast if I want to talk shit about the NFL. But I will give credit where credit's due. Yes, incredible. There were issues. I'm not saying it was perfect. There was a catering crew on the fucking track. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Someone can get their taquitos and their other things later. Get off the track. There was accessibility issues. There were issues with ticketing. It's the first pancake. Grandstand sell out. Grandstand sell out. Fans showed up. 1.5 million people watched it. First 3 races in the mills. What? We normally average 800,000 viewers, over the last couple of years. On NBC Thermal, it was like less than that. Averaging 1.3 million viewers, being up 48% from last year, which was a Fox year too. I had my issues with Fox taking it over last year. But I listened to James Hinchcliffe on the Off Track podcast. I listened to Marshall Pruitt saying, give it time. They're cooking. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see what happens next year. Because if this is the bar, IndyCar can finally have its flowers and continue having its flowers in markets that they do not do well. The track, incredible. Having that long ass fucking straight, longer than Monza, overtaking opportunities. There was strategy involved. It's a street race, so you have to use 2 sets of reds. It gave us everything all in a race. I was shocked about how few yellows there were. I think majority of drivers, while they were driving at the limit, were not driving 150% over the limit. But it was chef's kiss. You had Marcus Ericsson on pole. First ever pole. Man, there is something about drivers in a contract year that finally find what they're missing. Maybe it's just the stress and adrenaline of I have to perform, so they're really pushing harder than they normally push, which whatever. But Marcus Ericsson from Andretti on pole. We get to the race. The race is happening. We're watching different strategies because some teams were automatically saying there's going to be a yellow in the first 10 laps. We got to process. We got a thing to do. Okay? You had strategy going in, and then all of a sudden you see Alex Palou and he's doing Alex Palou shit. Okay? But the king of the streets, the Kyle Kirkwood. I don't know what Andretti put in that fucking engine to make it go so fast. He fucked up in qualifying, and he literally was sitting on the pit stand going, why the fuck did I do that? But he picked himself up by his bootstraps, no pun intended, we're in Dallas, and he fucking hopped on, rode the bull to fucking victory lane. Incredible drive by Kyle. This was also through a pit cycle for almost all Andretti's. What is up with Andretti pit stops? They are horrible. They are like every year. You had one year where Colton was losing fucking tires. One year where, this person, the nut kept falling out of the guy's hand. So we had fix your fucking pit stops, Andretti. You could have beat everyone on the field by 10 extra seconds. But even with issues on pit lane, issues in qualifying, traffic, an unwanted yellow in the final laps when Rasmussen cars stalled. Kyle Kirkwood overtook Alex Palou and said, "Bye, bitch," ramped up the radio and started fucking driving and got it like at one point before the yellow, it was like, what, an 8.5 second lead? Stunning. Andretti's on street courses is like a Penske on a short oval. There's something, they know something that all the other teams don't. And even with the precision of Alex Palou, seeing Kyle Kirkwood win and then take the lead of the championship, I know it's early. This finally gives IndyCar what it wants. I love Alex Palou. What he's doing, what he did last year was fucking incredible. But this is what IndyCar, so many people fall in love with it. Because it doesn't matter if you start from fucking dirt last or fucking first. Alex Palou is there and he might win. Or you might win from 25th. Scotty Mack, shit qualifying. Biggest mover. All the way to the top 10. Right? You had the willpower. Finally. Will, you finally had a podium. And with your new team. The Etsy witch that Milena and I paid for finally paid off. Maybe they're finally growing into it. Maybe Will's finally gotten his old school Penske juju. He's finally shaking it off. And he gets a break now. He's going to go to Barber, which he's always strong at Barber. I think Will is finally seeing the tiny sliver of light at the end of the tunnel. I do want to talk about McLaren for a little bit. I don't want to say concerned, because this happens every year. But what is up with McLaren struggling every year these last few years to get ahead in the beginning of the season? Top fives are great, but they just don't have pace. They don't have pace. And in Phoenix, same thing, where normally Pato's driving the boots off of these things, and then you have Christian and Nolan qualifying 15th and 20th. You have, in Arlington, you have Pato driving the boots off of that thing, and so with Christian, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Every year, it seems like they're just like this sluggish intro. And then they get to the month of May, they're with each other like day in, day out. They're, focusing on the 500. They get to the 500 and all of a sudden, no matter what the results of the 500 are, if Pato's fighting for first or he's crashing out because he's trying to fight for first, then all of a sudden it's like, phew, we got it. Momentum's there. They need to figure this shit out earlier, because Nolan, you can't be in the back. You can't be crashing. You can't be barely making leadership circle points. I did see, no tea, no shade. Zach was at the race. Rightfully so, because why would you go to an F1 race when both of your cars don't fucking anyway? He made a comment, he congratulated Pato and Christian for, their top, whatever 10s or whatever. He didn't even mention Nolan. And I know there's pressure on this kid. Let's highlight that word. He's still young. And it's like, putting Kimi Antonelli in a Mercedes and saying, you got to perform or you're out. Which, thank God, they're not doing that at Mercedes, but that's the Red Bull way, right? You're in or you're out. And they put the pressure on him. They can see what Christian can do. They see what Pato can fucking drive out of that fucking thing. They're looking at Dennis Hauger. They're looking at Kyle Collette, Louis Foster, going, so Nolan, where are you? You have a decent car. It's not great right now, but it's decent. There's tons of fans supporting you, kid. What do you need from us? Like, truly, what does he need? And TK has been there for him. But you can tell he's stressed. And the discourse around, is Nolan going to lose a seat? Are they going to cut him mid-season? It's McLaren. They're cutthroat, even though they don't want to be cutthroat. But look what they did with David Malukas after he broke his... Let's give the kid some room. I get it. Racing is, you're as good as your last race. When you have a Connor Daly literally waiting in the wings. You have a Linus Lundqvist salivating for a fucking seat. Shit, Callum Islet would come back. And Teddy Porkchop would come back. You have plenty of drivers that are waiting in the wings to race for IndyCar. They don't care if they're in a coin, in a McLaren, or a Penske. But give the kid some space. He's either going to perform or he's not going to perform. And the decision on whether or not they want to keep him or get rid of him, it comes down to Daddy Zach and Daddy TK. But Nolan, do I need to hire that Etsy wish again to unjuju what she did with willpower and get you some good juju? Because it's starting to feel that way. So we'll see. We shall see. But overall, you know, you had Pato finishing up in, you know, the top 5. You had David Malukas, and Felix actually was 6th, but he was penalized for overtaking Dave in the pit lane before the overtake line, the final lap. So he got basically disqualified and was last, which sucks. Shank had a hard week. You had Marcus Armstrong with a puncture literally on the warm-up lap, and that kind of ruined his chances. He was able to get a good result, but it ruined his chances. And then you had Felix doing well, and then just a simple mistake can do that, right? But give me more racing in Arlington. When Milena's back next week, we'll definitely get her feedback on it too, because I know she had some great takes as well. But yeah, I can't. I'm like salivating for Barber. Like, I was excited that the season was starting, but now, fuck. I have been excited about IndyCar, but this year feels different in a good way. So I cannot wait for Barber. I cannot wait to figure out what's going on with Prima and what's going to happen with the Indy 500. Oh, also, that means that I'm closer to the races I'm going to get to go to. Hell yeah. But we also had an Indy Next race, and it was really nice to have Indy Next at a new track. I think it added to the craziness of the weekend. With the crazy weather, they had to change the start of the race for the IndyCar race. They were up 1 hour. So the Indy Next race actually it was a timed race. I liked it. I didn't like the fact that they probably raced maybe like 8 full laps. But adding the pressure of there being a time versus like 25 laps, and you have to make each, overtake count, because, if a yellow comes through, like, that clock doesn't stop. But we had Alessandro De Tullio on pole, which was the first pole for AJ Foyt racing in Indy Next. And then we had Max Taylor, Enzo Fittipaldi, and Timmy Kachow, our friend Timek, on the podium. Enzo really rebounded from St. Pete. He had a horrible race in St. Pete. Max Taylor rebounded as well. That man was driving the boots off of that thing. And hey, it was an Andretti, Indy Next, and IndyCar sweep. But Timek, it's been a few races. You're not in Kubica territory yet. But when they interviewed him, Timek was like, I'm pissed at third. I wanted first. And he tried. Damn, he tried. He tried his hardest. But I think he's going to do well in Indy Next. I think that he will enjoy this. Put him on. We'll see what happens later in the season. But he's got great momentum. And from a championship standpoint, consistency is good here. You can be Dennis Hauger and you can fucking just dominate every race, or you can be first, second, third, fourth consistently, and you can win that championship. And then, damn it, go to IndyCar, baby. Go to IndyCar, baby, so that we can have a Polish boy in IndyCar. But it was nice seeing Enzo out there driving the hell out of it. I do have some questions about the blind curve for the starts at Arlington, because we did have a crash happening during the initial green flag lap. And because no one could see it, they didn't call the safety car quick enough. The accordion effect definitely was bigger in Indy Next than it was in IndyCar. But I do have to say, I am kind of digging Ryan Hunter-Reay on the Indy Next broadcast. I know Connor was on it too, but I really enjoy his insight as a seasoned driver. But he also has like kids that are around, like almost around the age of, someone that's going into Indy Next. And I think he's got a good perspective around, what they're doing, what they're thinking. And I think he compliments Jack and Kevin really well. And I know that Ryan Hunter-Reay is at all of the races up to the 500 to really get to vibe with the McLaren crew, which I think is a great idea. But I do enjoy his side quests on the Indy Next broadcast. So more Ryan Hunter-Reay, please. Please. I would love to have more guest spots, or even Connor. I think Connor did a great job as well. I think having that third person, especially a driver that Jack could talk to, that's a little bit more seasoned or has also gone through the ladder. I do like that. I like having that kind of, banter. And, you have to have a thing to do TV, right? You can't, I think Santino did a race last year and he was just like, he wasn't commentating, he was just commenting, which I think is different, right? So some people have a knack for it, and I think Jack has a great knack for it as a driver, and I think Connor and Ryan do too. So give me more of that. But Indy Next was also really good. I will have to say I am sad that because of the weather, T-Pain couldn't perform. There's my moment of silence for those folks who didn't get to see T-Pain. But having concert lineups, All Time Low, I believe, played, Shabuzi, like it was a party. And it gave me like Nashville Street Circuit vibes. I think IndyCar is figuring out a formula of what is successful for street races. So I'm definitely looking forward to Barber. We'll do a deeper dive into Barber next week when Melena's back. And then we'll also get her take on Arlington really quickly just to see what she thought about Arlington. And hopefully we'll have one or two of the All In series episodes to go over as well. But before I close, I wanted just to do a quick, I don't want to say shout out, just a quick moment. So for those of you who are new to IndyCar, or for those of you who have been with IndyCar for a while, we are part of the Prue Day, which is part of Marshall Pruitt's community. And Marshall has been very open over the last couple of years about his journey with his wife, Chabrel, and her cancer journey. And, there have been moments to celebrate. There have been hardships. And, Marshall and his family have gone through it, and they're still going through it. And just wanted to say that our thoughts and prayers are with, Chabrel and Marshall and, their fur baby family. And we're going to leave a link in the show notes to a GoFundMe to support Marshall and his family as they continue battling cancer with Chabrel. And Marshall is a incredible human being. He brings IndyCar a fresh breath. He knows so many people. I have aimlessly asked some of the silliest questions, and he answers every question that I have, engages with folks. He is just a wonderful human being. Chabrel is a wonderful human being. And we wanted to just show our support and, keep our thoughts for Marshall and his family when they're going through this time. And like I mentioned in the show notes, we'll have a link to the GoFundMe. And, you know, even if you see Marshall at the tracks, I know he's at Sebring this week, but he'll be, you know, when he's at Barber or he's doing a meetup, you know, come by, say hi. He is one of the most incredible human beings, and you can ask him literally anything and he will answer the silliest questions. Trust me. I have asked some pretty silly questions on his question call for his podcast. But thanks for listening, guys. I know it was just me this week, but just wanted to, you know, talk a little bit about Arlington. Next week when we're together, we'll take a deeper dive into the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll have some more news around the Indy 500 and Prema, because after Barber, the next race is Long Beach, and, you know, it's basically shit or get off the pot time. But if you enjoyed listening to this episode, please, you know, like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating or a review. Any engagement is really, really, really great for us. If you want to follow us on social, we're Lap It Like It's Hot on all social platforms. DM us, reach out to us. If there's a topic that you want us to cover, please feel free to drop it. We have some really cool things in the works that we're very excited to share with you guys in the next couple of weeks. But while we're sad, enjoy the time off. Enjoy not sitting in front of your TV all weekend watching IndyCar, Monica, and go and touch some grass. And we'll be back to dissect Barber and, you know, see what else is happening in the neck of the woods of all things IndyCar. So thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Bye.